Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Exit Liquidity live stream. I am your host, Jesse. We got Bacon with us again today.
Yeah.
We got a little change of plans. The guest that was going to come on and talk cybersecurity with me had some stuff come up. So we're pivoting. Pivot. And I don't really know exactly how long this is going to be and how in depth we're going to go because we're kind of just shooting from the hip here. So if you have questions or want to talk about something in general, go ahead and post comment and let me know what you guys want to go over. Let me get my screen share going here. And I think Bacon, you were talking about maybe doing some macro talk, maybe doing some valuation talk, just kind of like the model I use. And I can talk about all the flaws that it has, which actually the flaws of my model would be really good in the context of cybersecurity.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah. Park Lawn. Yeah. Can we talk about Park Lawn?
Thanks, Kiwi Sam.
Oh man.
Yep.
I think cybersecurity had a pretty good day today too. So Cybersecurity Stocks. Yeah. So, and
there he is. There he is.
What's going on, man?
Just quietly in the group chat.
Let me see if I can. Get my.
We're talking Park Lawn.
No, we're not.
Go for it. Yes. Bullish death. I mean, well, everyone's gonna die eventually.
Resignation from life. There we go.
Is that the ultimate moat?
Well, I mean,
death and taxes.
Death and taxes.
Into it. Buy into it in Park Lawn.
Not financial advice.
No, not at all.
Where's Julius Caesar saying I finished a nice sushi dinner?
Because he knows.
What is he implying?
He's implying cardio, probably.
No.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Yeah.
I have some Monopoly money in euros. Look how beautiful like the 20 euro looks.
I love how your green screen with it.
The green screen, it's like
it's fading away.
It was clear. I thought it just had clear gaps in it. I was like, that is really cool currency.
Yeah, that's a cool camera trick.
No, that's why
real big
I used that one instead of this one because this one's not the color that the green screen will pick up. And so I thought it would pick up the whole thing, but you see, yeah.
No, it's not a green screen though. You got a real brick background this time for once.
Yeah, now it's real. It wasn't real before.
Yeah, no.
Isn't Park Lawn like a micro cap?
Yeah.
What's it? It's like a super small company, I think, right?
It raises a question though, because like, should we apply a U.S. centric view on a Canadian company? Because would the market cap then like fluctuate or sizing kind of fluctuate relative to the market it's in?
I mean, yeah, when we look at Park Lawn, the market cap's 695 million, and I believe this is quoted in Canadian dollars.
Probably.
So that's about like $2.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
So it's it's definitely not a big market cap. Like we'll get that right out of the way. But I'm just wondering, like from a general perspective.
As in, if we're looking at it too small, but for the Canadian markets, it's big.
Yeah, well, I mean, like obviously in this case, it's just probably not appropriate. But like from a conceptual generalist or general perspective, like maybe I don't know. Sorry for derailing. This is just me being dumb. Anyways, here we go.
Yeah. I mean, as far as its size goes, is that an issue for you guys? Because this is a small cap, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. What would you define small cap as? Like, is microcaps under 1 billion small cap?
Well, actually, yeah, it'd be a small cap. No, because microcap is between 50 to 300.
Okay.
And then small cap is 300 to, I think it's just like,
it's always a moving target though, because I think At one point, I was looking at some mid cap indexes, and they had like 40-50 billion dollar companies in them.
Yeah.
It was
JC does raise an
crazy.
interesting question though of share price. Like, would that come into play here? or
Ah,
not?
Kelly OG fan over here. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably memeing, but like, it does make one wonder. Or share price completely irrelevant. Because I mean, like let's be honest though. Like, if a person says, this stock I'm gonna pitch trades at or under $1, like regardless of market cap, I think people should naturally be skeptical.
You guys want to talk real quick about a company that is quite cyclical, a lot of demand pulled forward for it, and it's recently crashed?
Yes.
We can after we say yay. Dan's here because yay.
Yay,
Dan is
Dan.
here.
Welcome.
Yay.
Welcome, Dan.
Yay!
Was this the airing of grievances I was waiting for? I saw Signa's in the title.
Oh yeah. Can I?
Come on,
I don't
Fabio.
even.
Let's
right,
go.
all right.
I
Let's
like
go. Give us some shit.
Both of you.
long-term
are-
hold, guys. That's why you never sell anything ever.
Yeah,
right?
you guys are fucking day traders. Like, I swear to God.
Yeah, okay.
You
More.
said you were like, oh, we're so long Cigna, and then you sold Cigna. Why?
You goddamn right.
I feel like Dan's about to go off.
I was really annoyed because I thought the runway and the most obvious way for them to move forward. I couldn't imagine the CEO was gonna try and do another acquisition. Like, I don't know. I'm pissed about it because I thought in the market expected what Jesse and me expected. I think because look at this. Look at what happened to the shares when the merger announcement came. It's like $50 drop in the stock price.
And Dan,
Paper-handed, I'm dead.
even when we were talking about it, I was like, this is either I don't want anything to do with this, or they're gonna flip really quick, and this could be a really good opportunity.
No, yeah, I was like,
and I was like, I just don't know if I want to deal with it because, like, I mean, if I was thinking, if they flip back, it's probably going to be, it could be a while, like a long time before they're like, okay, no, never mind, we're not going to pursue this anymore. It was like a week, maybe like 4 days, and they're like, never mind. Dang, that happened so quick.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I don't want to sit here with this company that the thesis is broken, basically, for what I wanted. Because like we were like, if they really dig their heels in on this Humana, I mean, it could go to $200 a share. So,
well, did I tell you guys that ELV is now a buy?
Oh yeah.
Oh, did you?
Is that correct?
Yeah, ELV is a buy. Park Lawn's now a buy. Fortinet is now a buy. Damn, like certain stocks are just now buys, and then I think I'm gonna make money on them. I'm going all in this.
Whoa!
At this point, I think Etsy might be a buy. Yeah.
Oh,
hold on. Look who decides. Look what the cat dragged in.
I know, right?
Hello.
Okay, so I guess the original talk is back on, or
all right. Let me change the title real quick, guys. Welcome to our cybersecurity stream.
Oh, I thought we were just gonna come here and roast people that talk about houses being liabilities, but okay.
I wanted to.
Go.
Okay, I need to know what happened. You guys need to inform me what happened.
You didn't see the clips of people going through a house. A house is a liability because when you have a house, you have to pay on the mortgage. It doesn't matter if you have equity in the house. But if you rent the house, then it's an asset.
Oh,
because
it's
the money's
cash flow, bros. Only if it's cash flow producing is it an asset, right?
I mean, like, all right. So from an accounting perspective, obviously, that does not fly at all. But like from a holistic perspective, like I get the argument. Like, but
I'm with you, Bacon. Keep going. I'm with you.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I'm with you. We have a debate going on here.
No way.
Yes.
No way. That means that Fabio's gonna lose because he agrees with me.
But like,
yeah. So like things like just not necessarily from like an equities or an investment point of view. Like say I have a passion for the great outdoors and handcrafting. That's my asset. Maybe I devote my human capital to making knickknacks out of wood. That's my asset. I get cash flows from that. But like things change. Metal knickknacks are the thing, plastic knickknacks are the thing, and I'm screwed. Maybe I still do it out of love and out of like happiness for myself and my own well-being, but that asset has arguably turned into a liability if I'm just lugging around wooden knickknacks that no one wants. Maybe that's a bad example, but yeah, like I get like the conceptual argument is what I'm getting at. I'm not necessarily saying that they articulated it well, and from an accounting perspective, no, like land, building, it's an asset, may depreciate, may have expenses, but asset still is an asset.
My primary issue with that argument is that people are discounting the equity you have in a house. So like my house is worth twice what it was bought for in 2015.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that my house is that equity doesn't matter?
So yeah, there are. If it costs you any money, it can't be an asset because it's an expense.
JC, thank you. I love you
And
so much.
There's things you have to put in a house that don't increase the value of your house. So like that's true. There's upkeep things. Like if your deck has to be rebuilt, I mean, if you're not making it bigger, you're not really increasing the value. Or if you have to fix your furnace or something like that. But
here's the question I would have for that
you
individual.
look at house values, they trend up historically over long periods of time, and to discount that is just kind of weird.
My question for the particular individual I was saying this is he's rather a large bull in M phase. Are solar panels a liability? Because they take money out of your bank account, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know who's being talked about. To clarify,
you know where this line of thinking leads. So if you want assets that don't have expenses, then he's got to be pushing cryptos and NFTs.
Right? Oh dear God!
Yeah, that's what it eventually tied into.
So intangible assets. That's where this leads you. There are some assets that you could argue don't have upkeep, but they're also volatile as hell typically. So.
I concede the argument. That's like saying I agree with Chamath. I immediately accept that I've lost the argument.
Yeah.
So Fabio's rather quiet. So I hear Fabio's.
Like
he's a homeowner. He's with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but well, I have renters in my home that I own, and I'm not raising the rent on them ever because they're family members.
Oh, so it is alive? No, I'm kidding.
No. So I have like an agreed upon rate, and it only increases if my tax liability increases.
So your family is a liability.
Yeah. Well, like, my grandparents.
They're like.
Okay.
I mean,
but what were
if you own your home, it's going to be somewhat of an inflation hedge, right? Your living expenses are going to be somewhat fixed.
It's better to own a home. If someone's coming up to me and saying rent or own, I was like, I'd rather own.
I will say,
well, I have people in my life that should never own houses because there's obligations owning a house. You need to fix it. You need to don't screw around when things break. You need to be responsible, not let it fall to trash. So there's certain people I know that probably should never own a house. It's not even
if you can rent that house for like $2,000 a month and it would sell for like 1.5 million, then probably rent. Like there's some markets that are just really stupid.
I would caution people though, because I think most everyone would agree, like buying a house or any property with the intention of just being a landlord does come with a lot of inherent risks or annoyances that maybe you don't want to deal with and you're not in a position to deal with. So just take stock of what you have and who you are.
Yeah.
You're saying buy REITs.
Say to that, Bacon.
What's
Drop
that?
Buy REITs. I mean, at the end of the day, a house is an asset with a deferred return, right? You can look at it a couple ways. It's either you're deferring your return until like your mortgage falls off, and then you have a lower cost of living because you no longer have a mortgage, or you're deferring the return until you sell it. Still an asset.
I don't really look too much at even it's not me who kind of instilled this in myself, but as real estate as like an asset to grow net worth as much as it's an asset that preserves wealth against inflation. So if you think about it in the worst case scenario, and if you're doing it really well, yeah, you are growing your wealth. But in the worst case scenario, what you should be aiming to do is utilize it as a tool that is like an inflation hedged savings account. And then the rent is ideally covering all of those liabilities that go with the maintenance of the savings account. And then any profit on top of that is icing on the cake. Because the real money to be made where you really grow your net worth is in businesses, not really in real estate. And then leverage being used as a tool when used properly is where you get the real rates of return. Because I think buying like a house in cash, pure cash, the returns, I don't think in most markets is expected to be good. I think it's actually quite trash when comparing it to, any other like equities, for example.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Houses move up moon 50%, right?
Like having stocks and having a house, it gets you in the game in ways that if people don't have those assets, you're just not in it. Like I have a home equity line of credit that's at 6% right now. Like I don't think you're going to get that with a personal loan or a line of credit from a bank. So there's products banks offer you that if you don't own a house with equity in it, you'll never have, which you might want to have in your life.
Okay, question. Because I was listening to this video and it was wild today, and a guy was talking about HELOCs.
Oh no!
I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about.
Is it the one that like we got to see like right after the weekly call?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand. On a HELOC, is it basically interest only payments and there's a balloon on it, or is it you take it out and you're just paying it off like a regular loan, right?
There's two. Well, in my area, you can either do like a fixed rate loan or a variable rate line of credit. Is usually what the two options are.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it can. I think they're interest only, but they can be called, right?
Yes.
Depending on the HELOC. So it's like interest only, but then if the bank is like, "Hey, we need that money," they can be like, "Hey, we're calling your loan."
Okay.
You have like 60 days.
That makes sense because that's
that more a commercial product. That sounds like a commercial type product. Or
No.
On a lot of the ones I've looked into, like just regular primary residence HELOCs, they're callable.
Yeah.
Oh, that like the interest only part. That's kind of I haven't seen that.
I'm a simple man.
The one benefit of just constantly being in debt is, I don't know if you guys know this, but you can write off the interest of your primary and secondary home. So you get two properties that you can write it off. And so if you're constantly kind of reshuffling debt on those properties, you'll always have like a deduction. I know that like Dave Ramsey files are just like turning in their grave right now. They're like, what?
Yeah, I think he's still alive, but
did you see the Dave Ramsey clip where it was like Graham Stephan asked him, he's like, if you could take out a 0% interest loan of $10 million, would you do it? It's like, no.
That's moronic.
Yeah.
Well, wait, hold on. Like the cash that you get would be that amount, like the face value, or
you get $10 million. There's 0% interest on the loan.
Wow. He said no to that. Like,
no.
because like obviously zero coupon bonds, like those trade at a discount to face value. But
just remember the borrower is slave to the lender.
Yeah.
Let me use some Bible quote without context. Justify financial decisions. Sorry. Go ahead, Fabio.
No. He's just
angry at Protestants.
He's committed to the brand. He's so.
Gondar's gonna smite me. I feel terrible right now.
But yeah. So like if you utilize it properly, I mean, I think like for example, using debt, not necessarily for self or improvement on homes, but like just allocating capital or extracting equity out of an asset like a property and then investing that into something that can probably generate even higher rates of return at a responsible level is interesting. That's what, home ownership or real estate ownership gives you the ability to do that. And then on top of that, you can be a little bit more, let's say, how do we say, scrappy with the tax benefits. Because you have a couple things. You have the depreciation of the property on your rental. You can't do that on your primary residence, but on your rental, what you can do with your primary residence is increase your basis through improvements in the home. But you can't depreciate the property. But you can deduct the interest payments on your primary and secondary up to, I believe, going off memory, 750,000 for married filing jointly, and I think it just cuts in half for single. So, but if you think about it, and so you can't deduct interest on a property or a loan that's greater than 750,000. So only the first 750,000 you're able to do that deduction. But if you think about it, most homeowners fall under that, and should be pretty interesting. So if you kind of go on like a forever, let's call it debt cycle, constantly in debt, and then extracting out, paying it down, and then redoing it over and over and over again, it actually works out. Math works out interestingly. Now Dave Ramsey just like goes, what? No.
I mean, Dave Ramsey, at the end of the day, he's selling a product which is like,
he's
Smart
selling a
investor
course.
pros.
yeah. Well, that too. I was gonna say he's just selling like this idea of like you're too stupid to have complex financial instruments. You're better off like just being
you're
simple.
too emotionally fragile and dumb. So you need to stick to the baby steps. Which I mean, some people like they totally need to do that.
Some people, it's very true.
But I don't know. And the whole like paying off mortgages ahead of time, 15-year term loans, stuff like that. I'm like, I would rather. I'm more about efficiency. So I'm like, if I have a 3%, 2.5% mortgage, like I'm just gonna pay that minimum and then like max out tax deferred accounts. Take tax savings like throughout those years rather than paying tax on it and paying off a house early or something like that.
Open question to everyone here regarding real estate is I think like one of the most attractive things to people is the leverage aspect. But if they have no competence or like not even especially not edge in the local market that they're thinking about, and they really want leverage so bad, would it be better for them to just leverage into T-bills or bonds? Because like I get the appeal of capital efficiency, but like real estate, you do probably need some edge and some competence, like bare minimum.
I mean, there are some ways to leverage your real estate very, very cheaply, right? Like 3%, 5% down. That's a lot of leverage. And if you can find the right deals that are cash flowing, then it can become attractive. But I just think like at least the places I've been, I feel like real estate's just so crowded. Like it's really crowded between people that are actually buying primary residence and investors. Like, I don't know. I feel like the space is just really crowded.
That's because you live in a place where people want to be. Just come live where I'm at. There'll be plenty of land available.
It's because nobody wants to be there, man.
I don't want to be here.
I really got to get my real estate agent on because she can talk about investors. She deals with like investors from other states that just they want her to buy properties for her, and like they don't want their names put out. So she deals with all this weird stuff. Like, she can't talk about all the details though, certain agreements, but
it's definitely more hands-on. I think there can be a lot more advantages, but it's definitely more hands-on.
And I do think like the real estate, like it's overhyped to an extent that people are like, oh yeah, I own 150 properties, and like or like even like the Meet Kevins of the world. I mean, if you happen to time the real estate market just at the bottom, you're going to do well. But But you can just do well anyways by just buying cybersecurity stocks, right? And
The future, bro.
yeah,
Well, I think
Yeah.
but I'm
So in 6 years, I've probably 34% gain on my house, roughly, because somebody sold like 2 houses down. Which
in how many years?
in 6 years.
There you
Okay.
go. Dan's doing it
Well,
again.
that's
Millennial
not the
flex.
S&P return there. So, but that's great, I think.
Yep, Dan going at it again, just flexing on the other millennials.
Just
Dan, are you
flex.
buying a house and then not living in it as well? You're buying. That's what you want to do.
I breezed through that update just so I could let people know. I wasn't bragging.
No,
I can't update people what I'm doing.
No, I'm just joking because it's like
I know.
the world we're moving towards. It's like the millennials and Zoomers are going to be like your form of bragging luxury is like, yeah, I bought a house and I don't live in it. I bought
really
a second one.
We sold our first house before COVID, and I kind of wish we kept it, but I don't know. It was a tough call. It didn't make sense. I would only make like 200, $300 a month after expenses.
Dan,
And or I could get $40,000 profit right from selling it. So I took the cash. But
Dan, you're thinking about it the wrong way. Every house you have is a house someone else can't have.
Yeah.
This is how you think. Scarcity mindset.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every house that
Are
you
you
have
not a
is one
long-term
that private
investor?
equity
Come
can't.
on.
But I can tell you, I can tell you what makes money. Oh God, it sounds so stupid. I can tell you what makes money for like fixing a house and what doesn't pretty well. But a lot of homeowners overdo renovations.
The solar.
They do too much, and you get screwed.
Solar on everything.
Yeah, solar will not increase
solar
the
deck.
value of your house.
Let's
penny.
go.
You could put $40,000 of panels on your roof. It doesn't matter. You won't
No.
get $1 more for it.
Exponential, just solar
not
on
up
top of
here.
solar.
You're actually right, because I went and looked at a house, and the person because they're trying to sell you on the house, right? And you're walking through, and you're like looking at the closets, so you're looking at the bathroom or the kitchen. The person's like, "It's got solar." You're just like, "Cool." I don't really that's not going to influence my decision if I'm going to buy this house.
No.
I know in Florida, it's a pool
Oh,
does it. Yeah, a pool
Oh.
does it.
Yeah.
It's hard to sell. It's harder to sell a house without a pool. Because
Do you
Florida,
have to
it's really
enclose your
common.
pool? Does you really have to?
No, not at all.
I see a lot of people have those big glass domes around them.
Yeah, if you live near the swamp or lake,
The Gators.
yeah, Florida. Yeah, you might want one, but no, the gator thing is not that. It's not a problem like that. But a lot of people do it because they just don't want to deal with mosquitoes.
Yeah.
It's just easier. If you have like a pet, you can like let them outside there, and so it's kind of okay to have. But no, there's plenty of people that have just open pools. So yeah,
I think Texas is big on pools as well. That's a
Yes.
plus.
And then having that half bath or a guest bathroom is big because you don't want them to.
Andrew,
Yeah.
the people that have solar in your area, they just need to put a utility bill like on the counter and like highlight their electric charges and be like, "Hey, look."
But
pay nothing.
even still, like you're like, I'm buying this thing that I'm gonna live in. Like, okay, it's nice if I have like $100 less a month that I'm paying, but
It's not that big of a deal.
that's
though.
not gonna make like this shitty kitchen any better.
Well, and in some cases, it makes it way less attractive depending on the solar agreement. If it was bought outright or if it's like a lease back or whatever. Like I
Right.
would never want to touch anything that's like a lease back or whatever. Those are that suck.
Yeah.
I wanted to also separate because I don't so kind of getting back but closing on the real estate discussion because that individual, they didn't talk about cash out refinance loans, right?
No, I don't think so.
because that's the one you actually want to do more often than not, because a home equity line of credit is a little bit better for using for like repairs, because I don't think there's like no restrictions on repayment, and so that's kind of the benefit, the more flexibility on deciding when to pay. The cash out refinance is a tool a lot of real estate investors use to then grow their net worth or expand elsewhere. So typically it requires you to have roughly 20%. Basically, it's like kind of like the restriction of a rental property. So it's not a sponsored FHA or anything like that, or some of the banking products you'll find where it's 3% down. But VA loans are, I think, the exception here. But for non-VA loans, you have to keep about 20% equity in the property, and then you're basically redoing a mortgage. So hypothetically, let's say you own 100% of the house, and then you're like, oh, I want to take money out and then have like a fixed mortgage again. Like I want to take a mortgage on myself. You're gonna have to, of course, there are like the closing expenses that I don't think a HELOC has as many of those, traditional expenses that you would take out with a mortgage, because this is basically like a new mortgage. And then you mortgage again or get a new mortgage on your house. And this is what I was talking about. This is the one like you kind of like recycle for life. You kind of decide how comfortable someone is with a cash out refinance. But this is the better tool to use to kind of grow your net worth. And if you're using your properties right as like a piggy bank or a savings account of sorts, you can kind of keep doing that into infinity. And if you think about if it's opportunistic, if rates are really opportunistic, like hypothetically, Andrew, if we're in a rate environment that's like 3-4%, and then you're like, you own your house outright, or you own a house outright, would you not want to do that and then take that and just shove it into an index?
Oh yeah, for sure. Or take it and shove into preferred equities that can be yielding 6%.
Yeah, and
it'll be really safe.
And remember, you can still write off the interest. So the interest can still always be deducted. So you get then the tax benefit on top of that. And with all mortgages, right? Everyone should know this, that in the beginning, most of it is interest, and then it slowly begins to add into principal. So you get a lot of the tax benefit up front too, on top of that.
That's true.
Unless you have a 1% interest rate.
Yeah. Even the way it still works out is like the first payments are pretty much all interest, right?
Yeah.
And then
the distribution curve on that's crazy when you look at like a 7% interest rate, 30-year amortization versus like a 2.5. It's nuts. I think when we refinanced at 2.5 over 30, like 45% was principal payment. It was pretty nice. So it'll be weird. It's gonna be weird to see if when refinances and cash out refinances pick back up, because I think everybody locked in really, really good rates over the last couple of years, and I think that's why a lot of people are not necessarily moving as quickly either. Like they're keeping their house off of the market, because if they were gonna sell and move somewhere, you'd be like, even if you're tapping equity, you're still getting like a 6-7% 30-year loan right now. Well, so it'll be interesting to see like when that floodgate comes back, because that could be a really nice source of liquidity for people. If rates get back down to like 4% or so.
And I was just gonna say, to your point, like I'm in the situation where if we find a good deal on a house, we'll buy one. But at the same time, I'm in no rush to buy a new house. I'm completely fine on my 2.5% interest, chilling, and just like So, we're not in a hurry to move. So we just like go to people and lowball them. And
you too, Andrew. Wow.
Yeah. So
also bragging millennial. Yeah. I'm buying a house, and I'm not going to live in
the status. The status symbol is not a car. It's not a wristwatch. It's
having more than
your mortgage rate. Yeah.
It's not only owning a home, owning more than one home, and then just not living in the other homes. Yeah.
It's like the new pickup line. You guys are just gonna go to a bar and you have like your loan terms. It's like 2.5%. You're like, look at that bad baby girl.
I don't know, like to the ladies in chat, if there are any, like, would the pickup line be I have no student loans? Was that a pickup line?
Yeah, the year is 2030. The pickup line is
debt free.
Hey baby, guess who doesn't have student loans and a 2% mortgage rate?
Is that the new pickup line? You go to the bar and you show her the interest rate on your 30-year.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Hey,
They'll be
baby.
like, no, you're not 6
3.1.
foot or higher.
We should make a meme. It's like this total Chad. You send a girl, and then you have like this fat dude. But the guy's got the 2.5% interest trump card. It's like,
Yeah.
sorry. we
Locked
know
in,
she's
baby.
total.
Locked in.
Oh my
Anyways.
gosh. All right.
Yeah,
Anyways,
check.
what do you guys want to go into now? Do you want Andrew? Did you want to talk about some cybersecurity stuff, or do you want to hit that later?
We can totally up to you. We can talk about it a bit right now. I think we can talk about our I don't know if it's that much of disagreement after you clarified a little bit, but it sounds like you think endpoints overhyped and on-prem firewall or just like inline is underhyped.
Yeah, I mean
And
essentially,
we can
like, I think,
we can break out so people understand what the heck we're talking about is.
yeah,
but-
how we argue, like why
Yeah.
we are arguing. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
which is funny because like I agree. I agree. I think endpoint is always going to be needed. I just think that's
Mhm.
like the focus of most of the market right now, and I
Right.
think like the market could be missing some really good opportunities because of it. But
No, and that's definitely possible. I think when it comes to cyber, especially like
let's talk about
know,
CrowdStrike.
let's talk about CrowdStrike. I'm still kicking
Let's
myself for
go.
not just like going
But
all in
finish
at
your thoughts.
95 and just being like I never have to invest again. But but I mean I was pounding the table. I got a little nervous at 135, but I got back in, so it's all good, right? With CrowdStrike, I think one of the things that's interesting about them, and so what CrowdStrike does, for those that don't know, is their endpoint security. And so an endpoint is basically your computers and cell phones. That's I mean, you could technically include like your other IoT like devices,
Toaster,
yeah.
printer,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
anything that
Yeah.
has an IP address and uses the internet
Right.
or any network to communicate.
Yeah, your
essentially
smart
is
fridge.
an endpoint.
Yeah. So that's an endpoint. I think one of the reasons it's so big is you also are seeing this. There's this market out there. So, everyone like gets your computer and it comes with a free virus that's called McAfee, and it's like you can't get rid of it. Like that's the old kind of endpoint protection. And basically how those work, and I think you know this, I'm assuming you do, is they basically have a scan and they look for different like file extensions and basically say these are bad file extensions, don't let them in. More or less how they work, right? So let's say an email comes in, the email has like a Trojan horse virus, not that it would be that obvious, but like has on there McAfee, Malwarebytes, Semantic's going to say like, hey, this is bad, don't let it in. The way that CrowdStrike works is a lot more dynamic. CrowdStrike will they do that scan. But what they do more importantly is they look at the activity. So you open an email, the email immediately does something, and it's like, that's not normal for an email to do. We're going to quarantine that and let one of your IT professionals look at it to figure out what the heck is going on. So that's what they do versus like a more traditional McAfee. And then you have the firewalls, which is and this is what Jesse's more talking about. You have the firewalls, which is you're at an office. There's some firewall that prevents or it scans everything that comes into the system that you're in. So any kind of internet communication coming into your HQ, it's going to scan. Like very, very brief and general overview. There's a lot more to get into there. CrowdStrike's kind of expanded. Like one of the things they do is they scan your files to see if there's any viruses in there, because commonly what a hacker will do is they'll just get a thing into one of your files. So if that gets missed somehow, or it's in there and just lays dormant, CrowdStrike can run scans to see if those are in there. So there's a lot of different things they do.
Yeah. Well, and so McAfee, McAfee, or what I think old Windows Defender, Symantec, antivirus. Those are all, like you said, legacy antivirus, and they usually work off of looking at files, doing some type of like hash sum on the file to see if it matches a specific fingerprint. And then from there, they can detect if that file is like in their malware library, right?
Right.
And then next gen antivirus usually they do that, and then they use also combination of machine learning and AI, and pattern recognition, along with more extensive malware detection that might be like implanted as a macro in a Word document, or like different things like that. So not only are they looking for your easy pickings, that just malware library, they're also looking at, things that are attached to emails, PDFs, macros within Word documents, common ways that attackers would get around a traditional AV antivirus. So yeah, CrowdStrike. Now, I've been slowly researching like all of these essentially. I think so. CrowdStrike, I think, has a very easy and like powerful platform, and I think that's like their golden goose, essentially. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like, a lot of other companies have endpoint protection that is I think they call it NGAV, next gen antivirus, which does the same. Well, I'm not going to say it does the same thing, because they're always going to be a little bit nuanced and different.
Right.
But the premise is the same, where they have the basic malware detection, but then they also use AI and ML for pattern recognition and threat detection. So
it's like what SentinelOne is saying. It's very similar. The new Microsoft Defender, etc.
Yeah. And same with like Palo Alto's endpoint protection and Fortinet's endpoint protection.
Yeah.
They're all some flavor of that. So, but from what I've seen with CrowdStrike is that it sometimes in technology, it's not necessarily it is who is best technically, but also who is best technically wrapped in the best and easiest way to sell and prove that your product is working.
It's who has the best sales pitch.
Yeah.
And like,
not even pitch. It's like, if you have a good enough product and good enough software suite where it can easily like show you its value,
right,
kind of sell itself, right? Because a lot of times you think of like cybersecurity, and you think like R&D is going to be the biggest expense. It's actually sales and marketing. Like sales and marketing is by far the biggest expense of most cybersecurity companies. So when you're looking through some of these, like look at their R&D and their sales and marketing, and do a relative comparison of like how much are they actually having to dump into sales and marketing to actually sell the product. But yeah, it is super. I mean, the business model I think is super powerful, because since it's not heavy on hardware, like I was going over Fortinet the other day, and you kind of have product sales, and then you have subscription, right? Subscription renewals. Well, with something that's mostly cloud-based or mostly endpoint, and with CrowdStrike, you don't really have product sales, but most of those, what I would say like net new sales or product sales, is going to come in the form of professional services, because that's usually going to be the initial stand-up of everything, is going to be wrapped into some type of professional services bundle. And that can give you a good sense of like, I would say like net new growth. And then your subscription revenue is probably going to be like lagging that a little bit. So like with Fortinet, we're seeing product revenue actually kind of stagnate, potentially decline, but subscription revenue is still growing. Subscription revenue is probably going to go through the same stagnation over the next like 8 to 12 months at some point. Probably not as big of a pullback as product, but it's probably going to have some type of slowing.
You think that there's going to be a slowing? Why do you think there'd be a slowing?
I was talking about for Fortinet.
Okay. I was gonna say I don't see that for CrowdStrike. Fortinet makes sense. Okay.
I think it'll be interesting to see how long the real runway is for some of these cybersecurity companies, because it's kind of like the first, not the first, but they've got a really good and easy product to sell. And I'm wondering, like, in the back of my head, I'm just thinking like, okay, how much of this was just super easy pickings, you know? And at what point do they potentially see not like a decline, but just a slowing in growth for a period? So,
Right. Well, and I think the reason I think Endpoint's so hyped and I like Endpoint is, if you look at any company, like you look at my company as an example, we have like 30 plus endpoints. We have 2 firewalls. Like, I think that's like the biggest. The volume on endpoints is so much more. I don't know, like, and I know that
Yeah.
there's endpoints for Fortinet, but I like the more pure play on that trend. And I also think like it's like you said, because so I'm actually really, really bullish on SMBs becoming more and more involved in this and having seen a pickup there. And I think with how like it is so easy to set these systems up. I can't speak for Fortinet, only their firewalls, which weren't terribly hard. I mean, they're a little more hard than these endpoints, but like literally you get a file, you download on the computer, you have like your admin who downloads a slightly different file, and you're set to go for CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
And like I think for SMBs that's a massive thing, like simplicity.
Oh, for sure. And CrowdStrike is also they like have more of a full service offering where if something happens, they'll actually do the threat hunting and like mitigation for you. And that's not going to be like on a lot of these bigger I don't want to say bigger companies. Unlike, I think, Palo Alto, Fortinet, that's not going to be their target most likely. Like they're going to be targeting customers that like actually run their own security operations center.
Right. No, for sure.
So
they'll have their own security center. Like they might use the software, but then they don't use like the SOC function. But anyways, that's why I like CrowdStrike. The other thing is I like companies like, I think the TAM is big enough just an endpoint right now that they can focus on that and grow considerably for a long time. And so I like, it's kind of like the thing I don't like about Fortinet and to a lesser degree Palo Alto, it's like the Kupang versus C. I feel like C was like invested in a bunch of different products, whereas Kupang's like, we're going to do primarily 1 or 2 things and do it really well. And that's kind of how I feel with CrowdStrike versus a Fortinet. Fortinet's got their hand in so many different pies that they're not the best at any of them. Which is how I feel CrowdStrike is.
So I mean, it's very interesting in the cybersecurity space because I generally totally agree with that, and that might be how it plays out this time as well. But at the same time,
I'm not buying CrowdStrike right now. Let me be clear.
Oh yeah,
but
so no, if this was like if we were talking about CrowdStrike at I don't know, let's say like 140 versus Fortinet at current price, then it'd be probably like valuation wise, it'd be totally different discussion. I think, right? I think we're just talking about like company and industry in general. Valuation wise, like I don't know, CrowdStrike kind of worries me right now, but it could be totally justified, and I can see pretty clearly why it could be justified. So I'm not like if I owned it, I wouldn't be selling it, but I'm not going to be buying it right now. Essentially is what it comes down to. But with cybersecurity, it's kind of interesting because there's so many different layers and so many different segments that I think it could be with the one of the industries where if you have a more comprehensive offering to cover a lot of those different areas, you'll be able to aggregate and aggregate that data and have better threat detection, hunting, mitigation, and response because of it.
I've
'Cause
already
if
told
you
you
have,
that
like-
doesn't matter because Palantir fixes that.
No, I know Palantir fixes it, but if you have like endpoint telemetry, and then you have like inline telemetry, you have external telemetry.
Okay. Can we back up? And I don't know if maybe it takes too long if you want to define what those are or kind of go through explain it, because I would think for the majority of people, if we're going through like inline telemetry and all this stuff,
Yeah.
most people it might fly over their head. So if you want to, I don't know if you guys think it might make more sense to kind of just
Let's just say that endpoint data, like CrowdStrike, is going to have like basically the next gen antivirus running on the machine on the end node, whatever end nodes that it supports and that it's installed on, right? So you have to have CrowdStrike. It has to be a supported endpoint and it has to be installed on the endpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they are essentially looking at each of those endpoints and what's happening on those endpoints, and they're reporting back to a centralized system of any type of threats or malicious activity that they think might be going on, right? And then from there, the user can, or the CrowdStrike Security Operations Control Center can do threat hunting, isolate the threat, mitigate the threat, whatever, right? But that's just on the endpoint. When I'm talking about inline threat hunting, is like I'm looking at the firewalls and then the route and then the switch layer, essentially. Your firewalls are usually going to be on the edge of your network, right? So that's going to be getting any data that comes north-south, like so any attacks that's external to internal. And then your sometimes your firewalls can act as your routers, just depends on how big the organization is. But typically, if you're a large enterprise environment, you're going to have like a firewall stack, right? And it's going to be a rack, essentially, of firewalls as dedicated just for inspection and firewall policy and DPI, different things like that. And then you'll have your routers and your switches within your environment. And those are like just your data transit layer that's passing data back and forth. When I talk about inline threat detection, I'm talking about basically firewalls, which primarily right now would be firewalls. In the future, I think it will be also routers and switches within that are further south of that border. But when I'm talking about inline threat detection, you can have DPI or deep packet inspection engines running on these firewalls that are doing threat detection for the like entire environment, like south of that. And they can be doing, so they're getting that telemetry based off of the traffic flows coming through the firewalls or the traffic flows trying to come through the firewalls. And they can even, depending on the DPI engines and how advanced they are, they can actually do the fingerprinting of the traffic going through and detect the malicious payload before it even gets there, right? Just based off of like it transiting the firewall. So they can intercept a lot of those things. Potentially, they should be able to intercept those and prevent it before it even gets to the end user. But
then it would still,
if you have, so I'm just saying, like when I talk about aggregating different points of telemetry, I'm talking about if you have a centralized, or if you have a one vendor solution, whether it be like Palo Alto or Fortinet, where not only are they doing endpoint, but they're doing inline inspection and detection, and they can basically gather these different areas of telemetry to have a more comprehensive picture of what's actually going on and improve their like security posture and their threat hunting and mitigation.
So just as an example, so we're on the same page. So you have the firewall, which is, for lack of a better term, it's the wall or the gate. It allows things in, doesn't allow things in to get into the organization. Then that flows to either, like you said, the routers or endpoints. Well, I guess the router is an endpoint, but like
routers, switches, routers and switches for transit, then endpoint.
And so if it makes it through the gate, so to speak, just it then has to get through the endpoint as well to really get to anything, right? Because that's its access point, how we'll get to, let's say there's files to get to. So if you have one solution, it can take the information of what was captured in the firewall and what was captured at the endpoints. And it can, tell you like what's slipping through. And basically it's a lot easier to take that data and put it into a centralized dashboard and say, here's what's getting picked up here. Here's what's getting picked up here. And the other thing too, and we could even, because there's so much of cybersecurity, because, because then you'd be like, well, what about the remote workers? How does that work? Because they're not going through the firewall, right? Because they're at home. And it's like, oh, then we can talk about like VPN or edge networking and all the fun stuff like that. So, which that's where like Zscaler comes in. That's where Cloudflare comes in. You're working from home. You want to basically tunnel into or get into, and by the way, this is mostly just me taking what Jesse has told me before and regurgitating it. So, but you're basically going to those Cloudflare. I'm going to say you're going to the Cloudflare locations because they have them all over. And then from that Cloudflare location, you're tunneling into your HQ and going to the internet there, for lack of a better explanation on that. It sounds really convoluted.
And then usually those VPN environments will also have a firewall. So not only do you VPN in, but then you're traversing another firewall to even access your data center or HQ or whatever you're transiting to. Right. So you can do even when you're doing a VPN in, it's usually done by like some type of firewall agent that's also going to have like inspection on the traffic flow.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting. And the other thing that I thought was interesting, because I looked at some of Fortinet and Palo Alto's product lines for not only do they have like just the end node or endpoint detection that's actually on the endpoint, but they're actually able to do, since they're doing telemetry and deep packet inspection on the in-band, they can do endpoint detection and lockdown essentially without having anything just installed on any of the endpoints.
Right.
So they can do endpoint protection on like printers, VoIP phones, like your fridge, like any IoT device.
Right. Now this is because they're tunneling, because they can do that edge protection, right? Because in order to get to the network, you have to tunnel through the edge network, so it catches any. Okay, so I know this is this is complicated, so we have to like back up. So I don't know if we want to go into this. So basically, what he's saying, and maybe everyone's picking this up, but essentially, and correct me if I messed up anywhere. One of the things that Fortinet or so we can even tie this into like Arista networks, because really they use ANET's hardware, right? That's what all this is built on. Essentially, these edge networks, right? If I'm understanding, because that's what Arista is.
So Arista is really more of that router and that switch layer.
Oh, is that what they do?
Fortinet, router and switch. Right. So I refer to it as like, it's like next gen DC VXLAN, but it's really router switch environment. So it would be like you would have Fortinet firewalls, and then you'd have a like route environment or a spine environment, and then you'd have like a leaf environment or a switch environment, kind of like a 3-tier, and then your end nodes are usually going to be off of those switches or those leafs, or maybe like the switches are hooked up to a wireless access point and they're going in through there. So
you know what we should do is and maybe I don't know if you did this when you made like your network, did you have to do one of those things where you have like what's the word for it, like the map that says like basically this is our security, and it has like the different layers broken out? We should like make an example one of those and just like walk through it and be like, so this is where these guys come in, this is where these guys come in. This is like how to walk down.
Should. I'll try to find something like that. I think Arista probably has some decent stuff in their some of their tech documents.
Right.
But like, obviously, I can't share anything that's like,
No, nothing
specific
real.
to anything that I've
No,
actually
no,
worked
no.
on, right?
I'm not gonna be like, hey guys, here's our map.
Hi. So,
but like, it would be hard to like
um,
to even like I'm sure you could almost like Google like example ones, and then we could just like play with it and kind of make some adjustments.
Yeah,
But I think
I'm trying to.
I have a semiconductor value chain. It'd be kind of cool to have something like that for cybersecurity.
yeah,
Hey,
I think that's what we should do because like walking through that would be really
infographic style, basically.
right. Well, because like it's really like if you understand it and you're talking about like this, yeah, it makes sense. But then like if you're trying to pick this up, it's maybe image search that. Just see what.
Yeah.
Just trying to see if I can find a decent.
Here we go.
Yeah. So,
and this isn't going to show everything, but it'll kind of give you a picture. So, this top layer is their spines or their route environment, and then you have well, it looks like they're doing a spine or a super spine, and then leaf environment.
Yeah.
But usually, between your internet, your spine and your internet, you're going to have like a firewall, a DMZ or something like that. So that firewall transit is going to lie right between your internet and your internal core environments, most likely. So the Fortinet firewalls are most likely going to be on that edge perimeter. And then the transit of a traffic is going to be really internal to this. This is usually a data center spine leaf environment. The interesting thing, and I think go ahead, Fabio.
Well, I have a question when you're done with this point, but continue.
Okay. So the interesting thing is that, so you would have telemetry from your end nodes, which would be anything hanging off of these switches down here. And then you'd also have telemetry potentially off of your firewall from it doing the inspection. The other interesting thing is that Arista is starting to work on their own type of inline DPI. So you could also have telemetry within your DC environment for basically what I would call like an east-west attack. So if somebody over here is already, hacked, say they like got a USB inside or something like that, put it in. If you have the technical capability and the DPI to process the traffic flow within your own like data center environment, then you could have east-west telemetry as well. So you'd be layering on multiple layers, multiple like zones of telemetry, aggregating that, and then building a better picture of exactly what's been compromised, where it's coming from, and how to lock that down like super quickly. And all of that can be pretty much automated using different automation engines. But it requires potentially multiple cybersecurity offerings or services to aggregate together and dump their data to the same it'd be security information event manager. So there's like a lot of internal workings where if you had, I would say, your tech stack within the same vendor, or being able to aggregate to a centralized system that had good enough integration to the other systems within your network, you could isolate and attack like that.
And this is, like you said, this is the DC. So then from the DC, then after going through all of this, that's when basically like this is the cloud that you access at work. Correct?
Yeah. So this would essentially be a cloud, but it could also be a local DC, an on-prem DC for larger organizations. Right. So it just depends. Like if you're consuming a private cloud as a small business customer, most likely you're transiting through something like this. It's just on the DC layer, it's been probably segmented in a way, or like, I don't know, logically broken up in a way to where it's technically your private cloud.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And Fabio, did you have a question?
Well, it was taking us away a little bit from here, so I'm debating when to ask it. But it's about the conversation you guys were having with Zscaler.
Okay, can I do one thing?
Yeah,
Can I just show one quick image that kind of,
Yeah,
because I thought there'd be, and then we
course.
can go to the question about Zscaler. That'd be okay?
Oh yeah.
Because like this is how I just want to tie it in. So imagine like that, what Jesse's showing you is either a cloud or a local data center that you're connecting to. And then essentially on your end, I'm just gonna kind of like, we'll see if this works. I'm gonna try this and see if this makes sense. So I'm gonna share this. Like essentially what he was showing, this is like, I just found this diagram. It's very simple. So like imagine this part here being what he was just showing you, like the data center, what he's got, and then you're accessing the internet. Internet goes to firewall, or I think they're trying to show this as switches or routers, but either way, imagine these are firewalls, which then connect to your endpoints. Like very simplistic, obviously. And we haven't talked yet about like the edge, like the VPNs, and how it's basically like virtually connecting into the data center that he's referring to, that Arista like secures and does all that diagram he showed you there. But that's just like a really quick explanation of how this all works. And the crazy thing is, with all of this, people still get hacked all the time.
Yes. And honestly, those are probably like some of these small little environments are probably the easiest to hack, right? Because they don't pay, the level of attention to security like larger organizations will.
I mean, you can have the best system in the world, there's still people in it. So
yeah.
And
that's how they got into Vegas, basically.
Yeah.
Through people, through the like the help desk, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And even though like that's why training is important. That's like a whole nother third part.
Social engineering is going to be the one thing that keeps on screwing people over and over and over again. Like that is what's going to happen, right?
You want to hear?
Because even in the case of MGM, it was a social engineering attack. Essentially, anything that person was doing on that account that he socially engineered would not look malicious to endpoints or to any type of security detection.
Right.
It was a valid account. It was a valid login. I don't think you really could have protected against it other than training on the social side or better segmentation of duties or something like that from an operational standpoint.
Really simple example of how that almost happened to my company. And it's not like giving anything away, but basically one of our vendors got hacked and the hacker just kind of waited. And so we were like, I was like, hey, isn't there like an invoice? Or like, I know there's an outstanding invoice. And so the hacker at that moment sent me an email from a legitimate email in there being like, yeah, here's the invoice instructions. By the way, our ACH instructions have changed. They're on the invoice.
No.
And the only thing that's good is like we have like a policy where we call them to confirm. So we call them like, are you actually switching this? And like, no. Like, oh, okay.
Might want to look into that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so like we had to, and I was
call.
like, it's like, I think you guys got hacked. You guys should probably look into that. But
so this is a meta engineering article and just like showing this on a large scale. So this is kind of the layout of traditional like spine leaf architecture within the cloud, and meta, like I believe this is one row each. So you have your spine switches on the top, your fabric switches, and your top rack at the very bottom. And this would be like one ginormous DC data center. And then you have essentially all of these data centers fabric connected into one another. So it's pretty insane. Like Meta has some really cool engineering articles. If you guys ever want to geek out on stuff, like It's
Yeah.
pretty sick.
Hey, they're building a data center near where I live.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Bullish meta.
I know. But-
So,
Hopefully,
and I
HC
think
and
What was the-
HVAC is good.
well, I don't know
Yeah,
if
but
there's
you
a
got no
question.
water, so I feel
Yeah.
all right.
yeah.
For
So,
Fox.
and I think when we get to
What you
just-
say? Water.
So you have no water, so I feel all right by myself.
oh.
Yeah.
So and when we get to like talking about cloud-based security, especially like cloud-based firewalls and stuff like that, all of it's going to be essentially running on, you know, some type of AWS, Google Cloud, Azure environment. I think eventually we're probably going to get to the point where they have segmented like sections of specific hardware, whether it be like Palo Alto or Fortinet or whatever, where when you buy those resources within the cloud, it actually reserves you out some of the physical hardware, because it's going to probably have to be the hardware is probably going to eventually need to be specific to the service you're consuming, right? Because like firewall ASICs are going to be better at processing firewall traffic. They can't just spin it up on like a regular VM. They could, and they are doing that right now, but I think we're going to run into an issue of efficiency where eventually they're going to have to bring in physical firewalls.
And that's kind of similar, like the thing that we talk about when we talk about semiconductor chips, right? Like right now they're kind of, and someone correct me on this because I know people know this a lot better than me, but for like data centers right now, like kind of more generalized, less specific use semi chips are okay. But the idea is in the future, they're just like you're saying, these firewalls, they're going to become more specific use chips are going to be introduced and used. And I guess that's the same with firewalls, is kind of what you're looking at.
Yeah, a little bit. I think you'll have certain companies that are going to be probably looking at specific ASICs for specific processing. I think cloud in general, like maybe they can design an ASIC that's specific to like a cloud and compute environment, but I think cloud in general is probably going to be more generalized compute, because you're like, it's really just VMs, right? Yeah. So you don't know exactly what they're going to be running. Right. You have to be able to support whatever they're going to run. Gotcha. But I think I think if you're consuming eventually, if you're consuming a cloud resource like a Fortinet firewall or a Palo Alto firewall, you can do that now, and I believe it's spun up on just generic hardware. I think eventually it's going to get to the point where these cloud providers are going to start building out like stacks that are specifically like Palo Alto or Fortinet, and piping that traffic to specific like secured instances for the performance.
So Fortinet's not going to be obsolete. You said they're going to build it with Fortinet.
I think it will go that way. I think it will go that way because part of the advantage that Fortinet and Palo Alto and Arista have is, right, they're building this hardware with these ASICs specifically for the tasks that they want them to perform, whether it's passing data transit or whether it's passing and inspecting, right? So you're not going to have the efficiency if you're just running this through like a regular VM on like a regular like hyperscaler.
Okay.
And even if they do, then you're just licensing out the like Palo Alto OS or the Fortinet OS for the inspection, right? And for that functionality. Because even you go on like Azure or AWS, Google Cloud, I think you can buy firewall resources from Fortinet, Palo Alto. I know you can buy CrowdStrike resources essentially. And if they end up not implementing the hardware, then and just using the Forta OS or the Palo Alto OS or CrowdStrike, it's almost even better because then like that's very, very low margin or very, very high margin for them, right? All they have to worry about is keeping keeping their software up to date and the functionality of the entire software suite rather than designing the hardware as well. But I don't think the hardware is just gonna like not be needed.
So what's the differentiation between Fortinet and Palo Alto? Is Palo Alto best of breed in firewall?
I think Palo Alto technically, I think, is smaller than Fortinet, but I think they've been gaining ground quicker. On like personal research that I've done, I think they probably have a better product. The interesting part, though, is that so Palo Alto, if we're just talking numbers, Palo Alto has grown at about 24-25% top line over the last 5 years. Fortinet has grown at the same exact rate, but Palo Alto has done about, I think it was 3 to 5 billion in acquisitions, and Fortinet is basically like 100 million in acquisitions. So Fortinet has had a lot of organic growth, but Fortinet's growth, from what I've seen, is more linked to ex-US. I think only 30% of the revenue comes from the US, and about and this makes sense. This makes sense. Well, like, I was calling BS on them for a while for saying this is a macro issue when they were guiding down, but I think it's like 60 or 70% of their top line is from the EU.
It's been rough.
The EU's been rough, right? So like I'm like, okay, maybe they're actually, like, I could actually see that if they're starting to guide a slowdown or guide down a little bit, and 60-70% of the revenue, their top line, is coming from the EU, that makes a lot more sense to me. And it would make sense why Palo Alto and some of these other cybersecurity players that are more US focused haven't really seen the same slowdown yet.
And question on so Fortinet has a similar product offering that's deployable over the cloud, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
They have cloud-based offerings.
And is Fortinet cheaper to get, or they both have a range of services that vary in cost? Or is it generally cheaper?
You'd have to look service by service, because I think these guys have like something like 50 services. Like, it's really, really broad. And I think a lot of the service revenue is going to be skewed on Palo Alto side, because they recently did an endpoint security acquisition like a year or two ago. And that's been doing pretty well. So I think from what I've seen, just from the financials, I think, well, personally, looking at the equipment, looking at their offerings, I think Palo Alto probably does have the edge on a quality basis. I don't know if they're cheaper or not. From recent earnings, we've seen that their hardware sales hasn't slowed down as much as Fortinet. So I would not be surprised if they're continuing to stay strong because they have a better product line as far as like the hardware firewall goes. It could also be that they just have a more US focused base, and the US hasn't been hit by as bad of macro conditions as the EU. And the EU is really getting Fortinet screwed over right now. That being said, like, when we look at network infrastructure, whether it be like firewall, route switch, DC, it's going to be a little bit more cyclical. So I would not be surprised if both Palo Alto and Fortinet had a lot of demand pull forward over like the last couple of years.
What was
they go through a little bit of a slowdown.
Go ahead.
Well, my question was just simply going to be, why the hell is the market assigning a 60 plus multiple on a company with projected growth of in the 20s and then slow down in 2025 and 2026? What's your opinion? Or like, do you think you know why?
For which one?
Palo Alto, sorry. I should have said the name first.
Yeah, so Palo Alto, I think with the recent acquisition of I forgot the
I think
company.
the simple answer is their EPS is supposed to skyrocket. But
I'm looking at EPS projections. Or
Really?
wait, sorry. Operating right. No, sorry.
False
Let
start.
me
5-yard penalty.
Prisma.
wrong one. Okay, yeah, EPS. Is this right? 278% in 2024.
Palo Alto's still young in their profitability phase, though.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Right?
Well,
They have a lot easier time for bottom line expansion than Fortinet does. Fortinet's already running at like their target. Fortinet's target is 25% bottom line margins. That's what
but
they're
like
planning on.
with Palo Alto, what's the free cash flow growth? I think is supposed to be close to 40 for a while. Like 40. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's supposed to be 40.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all, because what you're going to probably end up seeing here is you're going to see that they're probably going to their free cash flow operating margins are probably going to start expanding into that like 20 to 25% range,
Right.
along where Fortinet is right now.
what would
So
that be for them?
What would that be for what?
Palo Alto, like what would that be? So 20%. I'm sorry, I'm gonna do like napkin math here. That's revenue.
I do have a question actually, since the
revenue is about
sheets, the
7.2
models
billion.
pulled up.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we have 7.2 billion.
Yeah, I hope I get to squeeze it in. If not, it's all good.
Yeah, so Palo Alto would probably be way better to go off of free cash flow.
So the interesting thing in like, okay, so I'm only using this. This isn't a metric I use when I'm valuing companies, but I think it's interesting here because like these companies are somewhat at a different stage in their life cycle in terms of profitability and inflection. Like you're saying, like Fortinet's already turned. And so one of the interesting things is like, don't hate me for bringing this up, but I'm like up until recently, Fortinet was more expensive on a price to sales multiple.
Okay.
Well, I'm
With
not
that,
saying that
man.
I would value
No,
it, but what I'm
no,
saying
no,
is
no.
I don't think I think the EPS valuation sounds extreme for Palo Alto until you realize like their inflections recently happened. Because like
Yeah.
Fortinet's not super expensive on that. Now, this is where it becomes it's like until like they were, and then now Palo Alto's almost at 2x the PS of Fortinet.
See, the issue that I have is that how would I adjust their growth if they were non-acquisitive previously, and then how would I adjust that going forward? It's very interesting to me. Like, so the Fortinet has been like their CFO was basically like, yeah, they don't like to let me acquire anything, essentially. The CEO was like, we would much rather develop in-house. They have done a couple acquisitions, but it's usually like way lower.
Oh, it's the Paycom of cyber, I see.
Huh?
It's the Paycom of cyber.
No.
Because Paycom does the same thing. Paycom doesn't do acquisitions.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. If Fortinet, if I was more confident in Fortinet's quality of the talent they were retaining, I would be much more on board with that. At the same time, whenever you do an acquisition and you're trying to integrate something into your current tech stack, that can be a pain in the butt. So I don't know. Palo Alto has done fairly good at it, but it's almost like with Palo Alto, it's almost like the market gave it more of a CrowdStrike type of valuation.
Right.
And is pricing in more of the endpoint growth and more of the growth that came from the Prisma acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
And the market really doesn't believe Fortinet is gonna kind of break into those segments of cybersecurity in any serious way. That's how I'm interpreting this. What is that?
Actually, I do have another question as well, but my questions are one's more model based, the other one's conceptual.
I don't know if we want to take, because Fabio had a question on Zscaler. If we want to do that,
Yeah,
and then Bacon's question.
Yeah,
Or is-
sounds good.
I'll defer. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Or-
My question on Zscaler was basically we were having that discussion while I was observing the discussion between you and Andrew about Zscaler's commentary on firewalls eventually not being physical at all. And you said if they said that, short Zscaler. Trying to understand why.
I think it's he's saying why they said that, or why he's saying
Why they said that and why he said that. Both.
So why they said it makes sense.
Because that's their product.
Because that's in a way that's where regional offices are going. Is more to like SD-WAN environment,
Which is SASE,
secured environment through SD-WAN. SASE is like an adjacent offering that you can tack on usually with SD-WAN. SD-WAN can be essentially it can use the public internet, right? And it can build secure tunnels back to a hub, a DC hub for secure connectivity, right? So your point, oh man, do we have, where's that one that you shared?
Mine?
Yeah.
Shoot, did I? This one here. Let me just. I can share my screen. The one that I had the.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, at stage. Let me see. So, all right. So let's say that this right here, instead of a router, is a firewall, or a router and then a firewall. Let's see. Internet. What's
fire router?
If you scroll down, are those? Okay, hotel servers. Okay, maybe this isn't the best. This isn't the best picture.
I don't know if there's like I don't know if I could find a diagram that explains like how tunneling to an edge network and then
network diagram. Let's try this. I bet you I can in a little bit.
maybe Zscaler has something.
That's probably a little bit too complicated. Internet.
You should buy Zscaler.
Thanks,
Oh,
Fabio.
actually, this might be a decent. There's about public service edge Zscaler. Here, let's try it. You want to try this one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh shoot! Here we go. Okay, can I just open the image?
So
Okay.
Zscaler, when I actually read why they said that, so they're more bearish on firewalls on the branch environment, which I agree with. That doesn't mean that firewalls go away, right? What it means is that your point of inspection of where the firewall is located potentially shifts.
Yeah, because I think when you read through it, he's basically talking about their customers.
Yeah,
which is more the remote offices. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So if you're looking at like remote offices, like you say you have one headquarters, right? And that's where your DC environment is, and then you have like 50 remote offices or like stores or something, right? Well, instead of having an individual firewall at each one of those offices, what you can do is you can use like a SD-WAN environment, or you can do like SD-WAN going up to a Zscaler private edge. And you can secure that traffic and then inspect it once it actually gets into your headquartered environment or your DC environment. So like the need for firewalls doesn't really like change greatly. Like they're still needed. It's just the point of inspection and enforcement shifts.
Yeah. So I guess it's like as a simple example, the idea is for the customers they're talking about, it's mostly like the people that are remote working or like smaller remote offices. When they connect to the internet, basically what they're doing is they're not connecting to the internet where they're at. It's like basically they're tunneling. I guess tunnel is the best term for it, to that Zscaler edge network. And so you're not needing a firewall at your physical location is what they're saying, because you're connecting to basically the only thing that you're connecting to is an edge network that's going to have firewalls at it. So like when they say software firewalls, that's what they mean. It's like basically firewalls at an edge network, which is basically like a point of presence or a data center, essentially. Something like that.
Well, and that's exactly what it could be. It could be like once you terminate the traffic into your cloud environment is usually still going to be protected by a firewall at some point,
right?
Unless you're running completely private. But I mean, even then, like any flow that's going to get out to the internet is most likely it should traverse a firewall, unless you want to get hacked.
So out of actually, and this is going to bring us something interesting, and I don't know if we fully answered your question, Fabio, if you have like some clarity that's somewhat needed.
No, you guys answered my question for the most part. There was one follow-up I had. It's escaping me right now.
No.
Oh shit! It wasn't a Palo Alto. It wasn't I think it had something to do with Zscaler.
Cloudflare, maybe. But does the thing I didn't look into? Does Zscaler own these locations, or are they just?
Oh,
go ahead.
No, it's not. It's not the follow-up question. It's like kind of a serious but also lighthearted question. Why the fuck? Or sorry, why the hell?
Why the frick?
Why the frick are retail investors obsessing over fintech when there seems to be a lot more future in this?
Don't get me started, man.
We were talking about this.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, but why are they obsessed with fintech and not this?
Can I explain? I have the answer for that.
I don't want to hear your answer. I just want to complain, and I want you to hear me complain. I want you to hear me out. I'm kidding. I don't want solutions, Andrew.
Oh, it's like my wife. No,
because they are exit liquidity.
If you watch this, this is when Andrew. We all knew Andrew.
It's like Andrew won't be coming on the streams anymore.
Dude, yeah, this is why I had to just crack in this joke in here. We went through. I think we went for like an hour, not an hour straight, but like think an hour straight of just straight like, which is really good. So now continue.
No, the answer obviously is because this stuff's hard to understand, and fintech's like easy.
I don't think that's true. I don't
conceptually
think
though, like it's easy to be like, oh, Robinhood, you sell stock, they make money when you sell stock. Big bank, bad and boring.
Okay, no, Andrew, watch this. Hacker bad. I need protection. Protection good. Bye.
Palantir.
I
Palantir.
think
actually, Palantir might be the reason why.
Oh yeah, like, winner take all.
It's absorbing. What does Palantir have? Ignorance. Do they have a cybersecurity solution?
Do they? I don't know.
No idea. I feel like everybody has some type of
someone DM Carp or Peter Thiel.
Palantir information security, but that's not InfoSec.
That's cybersecurity.
Is it?
That is?
Yeah. Cybersecurity and information security is the same thing.
Big Pharma Shill's now going to say these guys don't know the definition. I'm deed.
Oh, he did.
Our customers rely on Palantir to power the most.
That's who matters in this. He has the info.
But like, what's their offering? It doesn't even say compliance and accreditation. Okay, cool. Open source contribution.
Kiwi Sam spent no time getting me cursing. I swear to God, he just sent me a clip of myself.
This doesn't make sense. It sounds like they're just saying like their own info is secure.
That could be. Yeah.
Like if I read this, all it is them just saying like their pen tests that they had and everything.
They probably say they're ISO certified or ISO compliant. They go by XYZ regulations.
They have SOC 2, SOC 1.
Yeah. Filing
so they're probably
information security.
Yeah, I don't know if they actually have any like InfoSec.
But I wonder if there's actually like draws the retail investor like for that kind of like fight bad guy. Like bad guys are bad.
Oh, you want to know?
Well, I think it's super easy for retail to get on fintech because of, well, for one, you have this huge obsession with Bitcoin and like just, I don't know what. is it DeFi or whatever? Like, just I don't know. People are obsessed with money and Bitcoin, and it's a very easy transition to be like SoFi.
Also, people
Hey.
use SoFi. People don't really use Zscaler. They don't use Cloud. Well, some people might use Cloudflare. They don't use.
Oh, I'm just gonna start sending out emails, and I'm gonna be like, "You have been protected from a threat by Fortinet." It's just-
Well, have you seen the total addressable market of a fintech? It's all the money in the
Yeah,
world. So.
All the TAM.
Hey, I'm investing in that fintech. Shut up.
so, but I mean, it is. There's so many different like cybersecurity. There's so many different like nuanced areas of it, and it's so complex on so many different levels. Like when you have companies that like Palo Alto or Fortinet that can have 50 plus offerings, like subscription service offerings, and they're not probably even covering half of them. Like it's crazy when you can get into the nuanced, like specific details of different like security vectors and stuff like
So,
that.
Go ahead.
Which I think, like, I mean, a great way to play it also is like, you know, what Dan is doing with ETFs, right? Industry tailwind, and you just want to bet on the industry and ride the winners, whoever they are. Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
My problem with that ETF, unless I'm looking at the wrong one, it's not a market cap weighted ETF, and it has Sentinel One as the #1 holding. Like WTF?
Oh,
should be
this person's her ETF?
No. The Wisdom Tree Cybersecurity ETF has Sentinel One, Class A, then Elastic. Is Elastic even cybersecurity? Then it has CrowdStrike, then Zscaler, then Cloudflare. This is all out of whack if you're trying to do market cap weight, let the market decide who's the winner kind of approach.
Yeah,
because this one's also is Sentinel One. I don't know why.
Just by Microsoft.
I don't get the Sentinel One obsession.
Let me see if this one has it.
I was gonna just show you though. This was something because this person, they were talking about like AI ecosystem. You know what the comments were on Twitter?
What?
Once you learn what Palantir does, we can talk. This reminds me of Tesla Q stuff. I'm assuming they were saying that in reference to like bearish Salesforce, but not Palantir. Oh, okay. And like she even said, she was like, I just got attacked for not having Palantir in here.
Fabio assumes markets are efficient. You see what he did there?
Oh snap!
I mean, if you're gonna, because then I'm relying on this manager to pick or somehow know that Sentinel One is better than.
No, it's a venture capital firm with a worldwide network of professionals.
Guys,
but wait, Jesse, do you personally agree with that Sentinel One is the best bet right now to have capital allocated to in cybersecurity?
I mean, no.
Then these professionals are worthless.
Right, so this one looks like it is.
Is this one? I wouldn't buy this because CrowdStrike is the devil number, and I don't want to buy that. It's either their net assets percentage.
But it's bug. It's BUG.
All right, this one looks better because you have the bigger players are closer to the top. A little BlackBerry.
Palo Alto.
Okay, this just makes me want to say that maybe I create my own on like, I don't know,
M1 Finance.
Yeah, and I just go Crowd, Zscaler,
Fabio.
No. Fabio, you need to have the Capital Mindset Discord vote.
Why?
And weight them based off of
inverting
CM votes.
So
I think there's two possible approaches. Sorry, Andrew. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, why is Arista not in any of these?
Why is Arista not in A? Because they're primarily okay. So here's the other thing that really irks me about cybersecurity is that pretty much every aspect of technology has some type of like cybersecurity relation, right? But if that's not their focus, then they're not going to probably get noticed too much for it.
Okay.
Like Arista mostly is data center transit, right? a hardware provider, but they also have aspects of cybersecurity that they're working on. So, I don't know. It's kind of annoying because like there are aspects of Cisco that are cybersecurity. Same with probably Nokia.
I would just argue that Arista is like their hardware that's needed for cyber. From everything.
Yeah, I mean they're more of a play just on cloud compute, probably.
Sure.
For sure.
I guess when I think cloud compute, though, like it all rolls into that. Okay, I see what you're saying. It's more similar to like the Datadogs of the world, the snowflakes.
I mean, I'm thinking here that might be the best approach that I might actually elect to take. Equal weight, and I'll do an equal weight instead of market cap weight because that's easier to manage.
With an M1 finance?
No, I can do it in just Merrill.
Okay, I was gonna say like because the running joke for people behind the scenes is Fabio uses M1 finance improperly for the longest time. It's just been one specific stock rather than the M1 finance gimmick of pies, like you build your own ETF based off like a pie chart method.
Oh yeah, and the returns on M1 were actually pretty good too.
Yeah, so there you go, people behind the scenes.
Not the best, but all right. Let me.
Pug. All right, so I still got my two main questions. If we're able to squeeze them. All right, so valuation model with your model, like what would you say would be the strengths and weaknesses when it comes to this space?
Well, a lot of them are just breaking into profitability. So, like something that I would have to do, and I don't know, I haven't really done a in-depth thing on CrowdStrike, but if we pull up CrowdStrike, my model is always going to be kind of somewhat, I don't know, harder to use or flawed if you're not profitable. And you don't have history of profitability. So what I need to do is I need to create a section where I can override and look at top line growth and then probably different margin projections and then kind of built it out manually. But so in this case for like CrowdStrike, what I would have to do is, obviously there is pretty much, almost no positive data for EBIT or net income. We have operating income. We have free cash flow. So just off of the bat, I would be probably looking to see if free cash flow would be something that I could use for like a quick modeling. And then if I decided that, free cash flow was something that I could use, then I would do a free cash flow based valuation because my net income and EBIT and operating income valuations would just be trashed because they're really not, I don't think they've been net income positive yet, or they're just breaking into that, right?
Yeah. And
it's kind of the same for, I take a really simplistic approach sometimes for like Palo Alto, Pan W. If I look at the historical data, you can kind of see that they were just breaking into profitability as well, especially on EBIT and net income. But you look at free cash flow, and they've been free cash flow positive for the last 10 years. So if I'm just trying to get a good base for a historical valuation based off of historical free cash flow yield multiples that they're spitting out, then over the last 10 years that the market's giving it, then I would use free cash flow for Palo Alto. And that's super like not trying that hard at all. I would obviously have to like look into projections and make sure that like I'm using whatever free cash flow projections I think they're going to be able to break into over the next 5 years for the 5-year like build out of what I think they're going to be doing in 5 years. But I would look at free cash flow in this case.
Alrighty. And my follow up would be, KPIs in the space. This one's open for everyone. Like, what would you say would be the KPIs to watch out for that makes sense, and also could be good indicators for things going in your favor or against your favor?
I don't know about Palo Alto and Fortinet,
Mm.
because there's so many different like kind of segments that they're in, and their largest segment, or at least Fortinet's largest segment, is still going to be hardware firewall based. But they've done a really good job at getting like a lot of their business pivoted to a subscription revenue model. So what I would be for Fortinet, what I'd be looking at is just overall forward-looking billings trends. Like what type of billings are they doing? What their hardware sales are, and just looking at the deviation of like hardware sales, billings, subscriptions, and knowing that a decline in hardware sales is probably going to lead to a lowering in billings, and then also a lowering in future subscriptions. For something like CrowdStrike, I don't know. I haven't looked into what type of KPIs they offer, but if they had something like, I don't know. No. Endpoints
What did you say?
protected. Like if they had
Oh, okay.
endpoints protected, that would be a really cool one to me, right? Because then I could start looking at on a relative basis of how many endpoints they're protecting, what type of growth they're having on their endpoint protection, and then probably break it down into revenue and potentially profitability per endpoint.
Yeah, because I don't know, like when you're asking for KPIs, you're saying things that you would look at that might not show up like on the quarterly release that everyone else is going to see at the same time.
Like for me, my more of an accounting bias. Like I care a lot about like your traditional metrics. Whereas like KPIs, like say a young growing company may really care about users. They're in that stage, and like if I invest in them as a speculation and I think, oh, profitability, and instead they say, yeah, we hit profitability, but users growth didn't grow as fast as expected, I might get blindsided. As a crude example, that doesn't apply here, but
I think I don't know, the things I guess a lot of people look at when it comes to CrowdStrike. I don't know if you were trying to look at things that are certainly different from like the pack, but you want to look at revenue retention, net revenue retention, and also net new annual recurring revenue growth. That's going to tell you how the company is going to be doing on a go-forward basis. Although, like the time usually to buy these, if you believe, like the time to buy CrowdStrike was when their net ARR dropped in a quarter, because it was like, I don't think this is an actual problem. What did management say? A lot of times you actually want to buy contra to what, if you believe in a company's in their quality and you think there's differentiation, you listen to management. Like the time I was pounding the table on CrowdStrike in the 90s back was when their net ARR growth actually was declining, their net new ARR growth. But management was like, we're winning in the space. We're still fine. Like that's the other thing. That'd be a really cool wins, like win percentage. So basically that's saying like how many times they go up to a client and what's the percentage that they pitch to a client and they win over competitors. That'd be a really cool one. But basically the CEO was saying, no, our win percentage is actually increasing. I'm not worried about our ARR growth. It's just there's elongation of cycles. And sure enough, like, go ahead.
No. Sorry. I do that sometimes. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. But those are like kind of the things that I would personally look at.
All right.
I was just calculating on in my spreadsheet here just to create a market cap weighted investment approach here, and then just adding to it in equal allotments.
Oh, a Fabio spin on the Dan approach to this space.
Yeah, well, no, it's just gonna be a lot more manual. I'll charge all of you 5% per year to do this if you want.
Oh, this is an Israeli company. Maybe we wouldn't want to. CyberArk.
Telos. Oh, I think you're gonna, because I was gonna say, did you guys know if you guys were investing back in the, I think it was 20? When did Palantir IPO? 2020.
Yeah, they're about
And then you had in 2021. This was like Telos. Have you heard of Telos before?
Yeah.
Retail was saying back in the
Yeah.
day that Telos was the Palantir of cybersecurity.
Oh snap!
Ooh.
It's
Well,
an Israeli company, by the way.
heavy sigh.
Something that does kind of concern me is that I don't know. It might be a nothing to really worry about, but I feel like if some of these larger tech companies like Microsoft and Amazon actually focus on the space, they could make it really hard.
but isn't Microsoft already focusing with Defender?
Get out of here.
No, I mean like actually trying, right?
Okay.
And what I'm, because you think like the service offerings that like Zscaler has.
Mhm.
What if like Microsoft is like, oh, we're gonna spin up SD-WAN and SASE. Oh yeah, we have Azure, so we have like 2,000
Yeah.
POPs, right? Like, what if AWS is like, oh, we're gonna actually develop an endpoint solution of our own, and it's gonna be integrated into AWS.
Are we gonna
You
start
can just
talking then
consume
about
it cheap.
how I don't get the net? Like at first I was like really onto the net investment thesis, and now I'm like I don't get it. Because I think
What is it?
Cloudflare.
Net? I haven't looked at it like super deep, honestly.
Andrew,
Cloudflare.
give me financial advice. Should I add net to my index? To my
The only reason I think people are excited about Cloudflare is it's the most pure play exposure to both cybersecurity and cloud compute. Like, I think that's why people like it, because it is an edge network with 300 POPs that also has its own cloud compute, like you can build on it.
Yeah.
And so, but like in talking to people, it's kind of like, and their argument is that they're faster than anyone else. But people that I talked to said like, yeah, I guess it's a little bit faster, but AWS is sufficient and the offering's a lot larger. Like there's way more tools on AWS than there's on Cloudflare.
Faster in what way? Like faster to just spin up a solution
Like
real quick, or
less
like
latency and like
latency is faster?
Yeah.
Okay. But that's not really anything that big, because that's just
I agree.
That's really more just an equation that, they have a decent amount of POPs, so they're able to terminate these secure tunnels closer to the client.
Did you see? I had a conversation in the Sense Discord with a member who has used Cloudflare and AWS. Did you see that conversation?
No, I did not.
Because his basic takeaway was like, yeah, there's a little less latency, but because I basically said, I'm like, I don't really get the purpose of Cloudflare. Am I missing something? And their response was, no, I think you're spot on. Basically,
it'll be a cloud gaming niche.
Yeah. So, it was in the Deluxe Investing chat. If you guys want to go find it.
Was it today?
No, I'll find it for you guys.
No, it's all good.
No, it won't take me long. But
yeah, my summary on Fortinet is looks cheap, could be cheap for a reason. They have a lot of opportunity. We'll see what happens. Like
my impersonation or my impression of Fortinet is they have a lot of Forta products and services.
Yeah.
Like if they ever expanded, it would be like Forta4.
Yeah, all about the Forta.
FortaPad.
It's actually, you don't have to go that far up in the Deluxe Investing chat. Maybe
the Forta Book Pro.
But if your question is, should you include it in cyber? Yeah, I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't. But if you're trying to filter for like quality, and if I buy it right now, I think way too expensive.
Which
I
one?
think- Cloudflare.
Oh, net. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, yeah, even like
I think this is going to be one of these like segments or industries though, where some really good winners just look expensive forever. You know what I mean?
But my thing I don't know is if they're going to be like really good winners, because from what I'm hearing,
It might be 1 out of 100. Like,
yeah,
I just wonder
that's
though,
the thing.
like,
There's probably going to be one
Oh.
of those, but there's going to be a lot that probably get trashed.
because like the other thing that they do obviously is because they have the pops and all that. Obviously, they would do like SASE or the same thing that they compete with Zscaler
Yeah.
by default. But like, so like that's the thing is they're kind of involved in everything a little bit, and so maybe people are saying if they can just win at one of those, then they're worth it.
So, have you guys heard of this company that it's been on my watch list for a bit? It's like Pokemon cards. I'm going to bring out this card now. It's a Japanese company.
Oh,
Akamai?
Oh, dang, you already knew about it. Well, now it's not as fun.
yeah, Jesse, why can't you play dumb? Let him win. Let him have his win.
Sorry. I mean, what is it, Fabio? No, it's not.
Well, no, now take it away. I mean, like, you already know.
I mean, I consumed some of their services a while ago. They're a CDN, right? Content Delivery Network.
And management has stated that their projected business is going to make up about 50% in cybersecurity revenue by 2026, because it made up 40% in 2021, I believe.
So
40.
what is their cybersecurity offering then?
That's why I was going to bring them up and be like, hey, we should look into this.
Because I thought they were more of a edge delivery.
That's
service.
right now. Yeah, right now that's the majority of their business.
Okay.
And then they're still going to keep that business, but they're the leader. I think they're the leader by far. And then they're focusing on growing their cybersecurity offering.
I'm seeing C security services. C portfolio.
How do you feel about
stop
it being...
DDoS and DNS attacks, enable zero trust, secure apps and
Yeah.
APIs. So like, there's another zero trust. Multi-factor authentication.
See, this is the weird thing about like some of these companies that like I use them for this like random thing that like they probably don't even tout. You know what I mean? So I'm like, so where are they at now though? In general, how do you feel about it being a Japanese company?
I ain't no racist. I'm okay.
Yeah,
No, I don't mean that.
you won't,
I just
you won't
mean
touch a
from
Chinese
like
company, so maybe you are.
Yeah, if Buff Dog is willing to throw money,
I've been
into-
accused of that in the comments before.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Very nice.
But
Lord.
I don't know. Like, yeah, they trade. I mean, I think there's been a broad discount to Japanese companies, but I think to some extent unfairly so. They trade at a forward multiple of around 18. Balance sheet's pretty freaking healthy. Not the healthiest, but it's pretty freaking healthy. I mean, you got, I think it's like between 3 to 4 billion in debt and about $1 billion in cash.
Yeah, that's right.
So generating 500 some odd million in free cash flow, 500 million in net income. So pretty much in line. Their growth, it's projected to grow, I think, roughly on a top line, single digits. And then, because remember, the majority of their business is still, it's that content delivery network. And then operating earnings is projected to grow 10 to 16% next 2 years. So
I feel like this is a company. I could be wrong when I look at them. Just like based on the numbers you're saying, really comes down to like governance. Like, what's their capital return policy? Because I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know that with Japanese companies, but aren't they historically not the greatest at like capital returns?
nah, I mean some of them like they just do buybacks.
Oh,
And so
that's
past
bad.
5 years, they reduced the share count by about 8%.
Wasn't
10
bad.
years, they reduced it by 14%. And no dividend currently.
Okay,
You guys saw
that's
the
fine.
you guys saw the company I sent in the chat with the buyback machine.
Musa?
Checkpoint.
Oh yeah, Checkpoint. The
But
shitty one that just buys shares.
yeah, it like super muted growth, top line growth. It's Israeli company, but like their share buybacks. Where's it at? Look at that. they're just buying back shares, and it's like the market like doesn't even care. And that's what, man, that's I would just be worried about the market never really rewarding it too much.
Oh no, wouldn't you want it to be a punish to Kingdom Come, and then they just buy the whole company back, and you're the last man standing? Pay yourself a
No,
fat
I mean,
$1 billion dividend.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean yeah, technically that would be nice, but I don't know. I think I'll put it this way. I think if you find something like that, the reversion in the US markets is more probable and will happen quicker, most likely, unless you have a really trash company. I don't know how long it would take for some of these other ones.
So, in summary, Fabio's going to make his cyber ETF, and
I'm
it's
gonna
going to
charge
be
$550. So 5% annual, 50% of gains.
And it's going to be, and what you got to do is just have like 20% Palantir, and then you'll get a lot of retail investment.
Oh, dear God.
Oh, and then I'll add a
Perfect.
Y after my ticker symbol to imply we do a covered call strategy.
Yeah,
and
you'll max it.
I'll yield max it.
Yeah,
Everyone will give me $10, and from the $10, I'll give them $3, and then I just keep $7.
I hate you so much.
But they got a 30% dividend yield, Bacon.
You know what? I'm waiting for LaFufu to try and channel his inner Meet Kevin and do a yield max fund of some sort.
Oh my
So,
god.
yeah,
Your reaction, Dan, is befitting. But
They've
it's
actually-
within the realm of possibility.
so I'm the reason why I'm even bringing them up. I'm actually thinking about just adding them to this index here. So let's go ahead and ain't no harm.
What?
Let's go.
To what index?
My index.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're doing your index. You're
Yeah,
actually going to use
the-
M1 Finance properly?
No, I'm not using
Can you
M1 Finance.
can
I'm
you
gonna
call
go
it
use
capital security? Capital
Yeah.
security.
Yeah.
to make you happy. I'll do it.
Cyber mindset.
Cyber mindset.
So it actually comes out to, if I'm market cap weighting it and then allotting the new contributions to the investment, I'll just have to look at this when I do it and then just allocate it accordingly. But it comes out that Palo Alto is going to be the most highest allocation, followed by CrowdStrike, followed by Fortinet, followed by Zscaler, followed by Akamai, and followed by SentinelOne at a really tiny amount.
On behalf of Big Pharma Scholler Biotech, he's going to ask, how will you day trade this?
It's called rebalancing, bro. Every day.
Well, no rebalancing because it's market cap weighted. I let the market decide.
Let the market do it.
Yeah, I let the market
But you're
decide.
introducing rebalancing timing luck as far as like how often you'll rebalance.
No, there's no rebalancing.
No rebalancing ever.
Bacon, there's no rebalancing in a
Bacon.
market
Get
cap
him.
weight.
Get him, Bacon. Come on, more.
You're just gonna throw the money in and it's just gonna sit.
No. You allocate the contributions according to the new weightings at the time of contribution. You don't add, like, you don't rebalance it whatsoever. There's no selling to make it now accordingly because it's market cap weighted. So it's like as they move, they're doing it on their own. But you have to worry about new net contributions. That's the only thing you have to worry about. Or you could do equal weight, and then equal weight starts to be kind of a nightmare. So I think this is better.
So market weight cap, but no rebalancing.
You don't rebalance. You don't rebalance.
No cap mindset.
Yeah.
The market does.
The only time you would technically rebalance is if you were kicking something out or in.
Yes, but in this case, I'm not. The only way something gets kicked out is if I decide so and I day trade it. Arbitrary.
There you go, Big Pharma Shill. We win. We win.
Like, I don't know if I should add Son of One. Y'all's opinion. Son of One a shit co.
That doesn't sound like a efficient market hypothesis. If you're
Fabio,
choosing winners and losers, Fabio.
Yeah,
well, I'm clearly choosing winners and losers. I'm excluding like the majority of the of the sector.
I don't know. Is their market cap 0? You need to put that shit in there. So
I'm excluding most of it.
So you hate my venture capital Israeli fund, but you're just
put Son of One.
You're gonna do exactly what they're doing, even though you made fun of it. But
you're
doing what they did.
Quite literally avoiding what they're doing. They're not doing a market cap weight. They're not doing equal weight. They're making a they're making a decision, I guess, based off of their research and then allocating as such. Because like Sentinel One,
you just asked Jesse if you should include a certain company.
But then
you
allocate it.
You asked the professional.
It's his selection process.
Sounds a lot
not the
like
weighting process.
Yeah. It's just like, is it a shit co or is it not a shit co?
Get a list of all the cybersecurity stocks. See what's talked about least on FinTwit, and
so that would probably be Checkpoint. Checkpoint Securities would be in there.
Probably. I don't know. Not advice.
Because Cloudflare, I don't know. I'm just trying to cover like Datadog. Why is Datadog cybersecurity?
I don't know. They're just a data aggregator, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Aren't they just like a log aggregator?
Let me view all holdings. You can view that. I wish they also gave you like a rationale. Like, this is why. Fastly. I didn't know Fastly was cybersecurity either.
Yeah, this is like Splunk essentially.
Oh, Akamai's in here. Yeah, Akamai. They already have Akamai in here. Trend macro, Verona system. I don't know any of these.
Yeah, I thought it was more cloud.
Wait. They have another.
I agree with you, Jin Chen.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of coming in here and looking at the offering and then just kicking out most of them, taking the top.
Oh, you gotta have Okta. Did you say Okta?
I gotta have Okta?
Yeah, because they're like the worst company like in security ever. And I think they're like a solid ad. I swear I see Okta breaches more than anything else.
All right, why would I add it? No, the whole point.
Because the market cap, Fabio.
They have a market cap, you have to add it.
Oh, speaking of breaches, did you guys see the latest one for Fortinet was earlier this year? Fortinet had a web GUI vulnerability.
Dude,
it's like, really?
I do remember that.
I'm just hung up on the capital mindset. Market cap is cap.
No, and you keep saying rebalancing. There's no rebalancing.
Okay, all right. So, all right, you start this fund, or you start, this portfolio, correct?
No, it's just like, putting in
with market cap weights. Like,
so
what happens? What happens when one company's market cap overtakes another?
Well, if I'm already invested, then the value of that will be greater than the other.
Okay, so you're not adding in new capital or anything
Well,
like that?
if I add new capital, I allocate capital according to the new weightings, and I don't take away from the other one. It's just
Okay.
new capital is
Okay.
added.
Okay.
It would be just
All
like
right.
buying the index, right? Like if
Yes.
Tesla goes up then in the index, right?
Yes.
When you buy SPY again, you're buying more Tesla on an allocation basis because it's larger
Right.
in
Yeah.
the SPY.
I don't
right?
know. I mean,
Doing this is a nightmare in M1, by the way. What I'm describing is a nightmare in M1. It's not efficient on M1, but
just
doing it manually is okay in like a regular brokerage.
just makes me
So-
wonder the lower threshold market cap. Like, if one gets out, should another one go in and replace it? The one that just
It's
vacated
usually
this
what
one?
happens, right?
Yeah. So there would
Like when
be.
they have like the large cap or like S&P 500, like is it quarterly or every 2
It's
years or something
quarterly
like that?
for S&P 500.
Yeah, and they redo it. They'll kick some out. Some will come in. There
Mhm.
might be a little bit of like buying, selling to get their weights correct. Because you think about it, like when Tesla went into the S&P 500, it was already a pretty big company, right? That was actually pretty fascinating. The I think it was the Friday at close, like before Tesla went on into the S&P 500 the next Monday, there was like wicked volume in like in the last like 10 minutes of trading because all these all these funds were, it probably wasn't the funds themselves. They probably had hired I don't know, firms to go out and acquire the stock so they could bring it into their index. But you have a huge company coming into the index already at a 1% weighting, and you had like this massive transfer of shares going on for like, 5 minutes after hours while everything swapped. Like it was insane. I watched that and I was like, holy cow. But so Fabio, I had a question about index weightings then. So it is the only time that um the weighting in the index changes is just on that initial buy, right? Like that initial in out, and then it just nothing. Like it just rides.
Well,
The market cap weight adjusts.
Yeah, so I mean, like presumably by the market performance of each individual equity, the allocation by virtue of performance is changing.
Yeah.
And then let's say I go, oh, I want to add more to my cybersecurity investment. And then I look at what the new weightings are, and then I allocate according to that by percentage of the new allocation. And so I'm not making an active decision, because an active decision in that case would be saying like, oh, Fortinet underperformed the others. I'm going to actively decide to throw more money at Fortinet to bring it back up. It's like, no.
It's kind of funny because I don't think people like realize just how good of a system the SPY is, or just market cap weighted total market indexes. Because essentially all you're doing is not only letting your winners run, but you're actually adding more into your winners. And then you're contributing less and less capital to those that are falling out. So you're just naturally stacking your new capital further and further into the winners.
Yes.
Yeah. Screw value. Who needs to go value?
So
It's
it's
like a momentum fund, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm running away from value traps.
Yes.
I gotta wrap up here in a couple minutes. Questions in the comments, or Fabio, I'll let you talk for a little bit.
No, it's just I feel like that would be one way for me to kind of try to make a way to try to capture the top performers in the sector, but not fully figuring out which one's going to be the number one winner. And it's kind of letting the market decide between those, but kind of having a general understanding of which ones are the serious players and which ones are the shitcoes. I'm trying to cut the shitcoes out. If I cut out all the shitcoes, in theory, and I'm I know I'm buying some of these would be buying, like, for example, in this example, at nosebleed prices. Okay, I'll have to live with it. Because right now I have the allocation of CrowdStrike, but I'm thinking if I do this and then I have this system to still get exposure to cybersecurity minus the shitcodes. I feel like that's okay. I feel like it could do really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for full disclosure, I've been sitting on the sidelines on this one, just watching and learning. So that's me.
It's a hard one to go, I think, like individual specific companies on, unless you have a really, really good understanding and experience in the industry. But yeah, like, man, it's kind of the overall sector. I think it's gonna do pretty good long term. And it's most likely going to have very long-term tailwinds. It'll be interesting to see who is really the big benefactors of those, though.
Can we agree to form a cult on YouTube around cybersecurity to combat the fintechers, and then we create like a cult rivalries? So we call the fintechers fintards, and then they can call us fintards, and then they call us like securetards.
Cyberpunks
or cyber. Oh, we call ourselves cyberpunks, but they have but we call them fintards. All right, they're just fintards, and then we're like all about cybersecurity stocks. And then Jesse starts doing like the Fortinet Weekly or Fortinet Weekly.
It'll be the one that like crashes and burns and goes to zero. So.
Well, as long as you don't like take out a loan to buy some more.
Yeah, Andrew is going to be the crowd striker, so that's like
150%
talents here. Jesse, you want to die on Fortinet?
I'm going to make a website called.
Man, I would probably die on ANET still. I'd be like, just wait, further entrance into the space. And then boom.
Thank you. That's the one I'm missing. I was like, there's one. Okay, I'm fuck Sentinel-1. I'm sorry. I feel like they're a shitco.
Oh, okay. All right.
I gotta run, guys. Do you guys want to stay on or?
No.
Yeah, I'm good. I got it.
Trying to make us do passive income live streaming. It's typical strongman move.
All right. Thanks for joining.
Thanks
Catch you in the next one. And yeah, we're definitely gonna have to do more cybersecurity streams though.
Maybe, no, I have no value add.
Well, maybe once a month. I don't know. Take a random little cybersecurity company and try to see if it's crap or not.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. So,
I'll see you guys
thanks for joining,
Discord
everyone. And we'll catch you later.